Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning. Hi. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, wherever you are. We're going to have a good conversation today. Yeah. Oh, let me get my girl Brittney in here. Da, da, da. Da, 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 da. Oh, here she comes. Hi.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I mean, there's fires out here in California, so it was a little
Ooh,
smoky yesterday, but the air's clearer today. So I hope that means they have them a little bit more contained.
yeah, I'm so sorry about
Yeah,
the fires. Are you okay?
I'm okay. Yeah,
Okay, good, good,
it's
good.
the California just burns. People go, California's great. I'm like, California has
Mhm.
earthquakes and a lot of fires because it's
Yeah.
hot and it's been hot and low humidity. So, and then we had
Mm,
thunder and lightning, and that started fires.
wow.
So I'm
Well,
like,
I'm glad you're
2020.
okay.
What else can you bring?
Oh, it can get worse.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
To
definitely.
to quote Michelle Obama, if you think it can't get worse, I
It,
don't know what she said after that, but
but it
basically she's
can.
alluding that it can get worse.
Oh, it can get worse. It can be like I feel it's
Yes.
going to get worse before it gets better. I wish I was an optimist, but
Oh, absolutely,
I'm not.
absolutely.
2020.
I mean, I feel you. I feel like I'm optimistic. Um, I'm optimistic and I try to be practical as well. Um, and so yeah, I don't know. I don't think people always hear the optimism. I think they just hear my criticisms.
Yeah. Like
But you
I
know, I
think
try to be
change
a
is
little
coming.
optimistic.
I'm just like, y'all have to face
Hmm.
reality, and then we can think of all the good things
Yeah,
that can come from this reality. But let's look at
yeah,
let's look at facts first. Well, I'm so glad that you
yeah,
were able to jump back on. I'm so glad I get to see your face
yeah.
too. This makes me happy.
Yes, I'm happy to see you as well.
I know.
I'm in Baltimore right now, so like I don't have like my stuff to like hold up my phone and stuff, but and I think it's fine. My brother's in the background. Uh,
It's
I
okay.
just realized he's taking
Don't worry.
pictures of me. Okay.
Baltimore. It's okay. I have like a flower
Yes.
planter holding my phone up. It's like I have a
Oh,
makeshift
perfect.
situation outside because inside there's a crying baby. So I'm like, let's just stay
Yeah.
out here, even though it's
Yes.
hot. It's okay. Well,
Hmm.
I wanted, and we had talked about our last conversation about talking about country music and how
Yes.
its roots are black
Hmm.
and how that's
Heck yeah.
shocking in the sense that when you look at our country music landscape and you look at Nashville and you look at the artists and the people playing at the bars, it's 99.9% white, a
Yeah.
lot of blonde hair and blue eyes. And
Yeah.
not to say that that's bad, but that is not what country music was made of. And
Yeah.
it's shocking that we still aren't allowing a lot of black men and women to break through into the music
Hmm.
that was created by their ancestors. Like
Yeah.
I'm am very disheartened by that. I'm happy that a few people have broken through and that are slowly more are breaking
Hmm.
through. But um, I think that a lot of people don't realize
Hmm.
where it came from and how it originated.
Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
and
I'm with you completely.
like
Um, like I preface all of this with saying like I'm not a historian. I'm
we're
just a
not.
person who likes to read. I'm a person who I mean I went to school. I went to college right outside of Nashville, and one of the first classes I had to take was a course on the history of the recording industry. And the class was taught by Mr. Aldine, I believe. And he was really kind. He actually ended up sending me to Germany for like a week or so after uh, anyway, he sent me to Germany for like this songwriting workshop that I got to be a part of, which was awesome. He's a black man. He's from the Caribbean. I'm not sure exactly which country, but he's from the Caribbean, and he's just a well of just information and knowledge. And I learned a lot from him. And also, I just like to read. So, you know, just when we talk about the history of country music, um, I mean, it's I don't think it's like common knowledge. I don't think everyone just kind of knows where it came from or
Mm,
even cares most of the time. But it's important to us, particularly people who are consistently excluded from the narrative when we were part of the foundation. So when we talk about during the time when country artists were or when labels, I guess, essentially wanted to start recording country music, a lot of that was a lot of different artists going to the mountains and
yeah,
getting the songs from the mountaineers. And there were no recording machines back then. There wasn't, you didn't have a tape recorder or your iPhone. So they would bring people who had good memory, people who could remember the songs that they heard in the mountains and bring them back to do field recordings and things of that nature. And a lot of those people that were going up there were black. A lot of the black mountaineers, a lot of the mountaineers that actually had mountain songs, country songs, were black people. When we talk about the instruments that were used, when we talk about the banjo, when we talk about even instruments that preceded the banjo, those are African instruments.
and they had them
Um,
bring them over when they
mhm,
were taking them as slaves. They had to
yeah,
bring their instruments.
yeah, a lot of them were guitarists. A lot
Yeah.
of them were fiddlers. Um, I mean, it's crazy. I sent you a video yesterday of just like one of the things that I watch on YouTube. It's crazy. It has 33 views, but it's just this 15-minute piece that's just running through very quickly, but just running through the history of country music and the presence of African Americans in that genre. There's a few books on it as well. And it's just I'm always amazed at the different things that I just learn about the presence of African Americans on industries that today are presented as historically white. Um,
Hmm.
and but people don't always understand that painting that picture, it also almost justifies why it should remain that way. And so that's always my thing. And we can dive into more. I feel like I'm just rambling and talking.
No, what made me sad about that video was that it didn't have a lot of views. I'm like, do people not
Mhm.
want to learn? Like, it's like they don't
Mhm.
want to learn almost. People are
Yeah.
comfortable with the way it is.
Mhm.
And I remember I watched Ken Burns' documentary, and he was able to go a little bit into like the slave trade and how even when they were recording music and we were segregated, and they still musicians weren't as segregated in
Mhm.
recording. Musicians weren't as segregated in creating, but they
Mhm.
took those songs and like,
Mhm.
and then white artists would sing them. And
Mhm.
because of lack of education and lack of understanding, a lot of those songs black artists never got paid for and still don't
Mhm.
get paid for. And they
Yep.
are basically, they took the melody, they changed a few words, and they
Mhm.
created country
Yep.
songs. Like the Carter family did that a lot. And I'm not blaming
Absolutely.
the Carter family for what happened, but I'm saying those songs were black hymns and spirituals
Mhm.
that had been carried generation after generation to
Yep.
survive their oppression. And then
Mhm.
they got turned into like a country jam
Mhm.
by a
Same with
white family.
Elvis.
And I'm like,
Mhm. Yep.
why aren't we discussing that? Not bashing, but just discussing that these songs, the especially older country, is based off of black hymnals and black spirituals. Like
Mhm.
that is the chord progressions. That is country is
Mhm.
gospel, and
Oh,
gospel
and
is black. Like
mhm.
it
And
all aligns.
some of our favorite and historic country artists, when you talk about Jimmy Rogers, when you talk about Bill Monroe, when you talk about I took down some notes here. When you talk about Hank Williams, a lot of a lot of those artists were trained by black guitarists, black instrumentalists, black musicians, and always being put in the background. I was um, I was reading something about DeFore Bailey last week. First of all, I wish someone would make a movie about him. His
Yes,
life is his life story alone. Like even before we talk about his introduction to the Grand Ole Opry, his life is incredible. And if you ever get an opportunity, please read up on him. Um, if they found out at 3 years old he had polio, and he was partially paralyzed, but he can move his arms, he can move his head, and so he was just sitting in the bed for like a year straight. So his dad would put guitars around his neck and put like a harmonica around his neck. They called it harps back then, but that's how he learned how to play instruments. And but anyway, I was reading up about D4 Bailey um, and gosh, I forgot where I was going. Dang, I got so caught up in his life. See, that's how good it is. You really have to like read up
His
about his
life
life
is
because it's incredible. Um, but when you read up about his life and when you read about his career, even in the Grand Ole Opry, um, he talks a lot about how he was silenced, how he felt like he couldn't be assertive, like to the point where he didn't even like speak to people. If they wanted to talk to him, he waited for people to come over to him. It just the way even that black people were even treated in the early days of country music, um, kind of always being portrayed as there can only be one.
mhm.
But there are several times where black people have um, we've already mentioned how black people are part of the introduction into even what country music is. But even when we talk about even saving, you know, country music, part of the revival of country music in the 50s and also part of the 60s was because R&B artists like Etta James,
Yes.
like Ray Charles, um, they started doing covers of country songs.
Mm,
And that was during a time historically, just looking at the facts, this was a time when country was losing popularity and wasn't gaining momentum like other genres. And a whole wave of new life being breathed into this genre is because of R&B singers. When you talk about Fat Dominoes,
yes.
it's it's so the idea of consistently excluding um, black people from the narrative, from the story, from the history, from the present, um, or even in saying like, well, maybe there's been so many times black artists have been told, the world isn't ready, you know, and
Hmm.
it's it's really sad to see and hear. And I'm a newcomer to this scene. Like I've been in Nashville for 2 years. I got like two songs out. Like I'm not like
Yeah.
this isn't my claim to say I deserve. Like that's not what this is about. This is about facing history so that we can embrace a much better future. This
Well,
is about education.
and what you were saying about apologize for interrupting. What you were saying
No, you're
about
fine.
how they how country music has waned and black artists have brought it back through,
Mm-hmm.
like, look at even in current stand-ins like Florida Georgia
Mm-hmm.
Line and Bro Country, that has a huge basis in hip-hop and R&B and using
Mm-hmm.
black artists and artistry and storytelling and bringing it into, like they brought Nelly in, like you're bringing people into it, like,
And it's breathing new life.
and it brought
It's
huge life.
breathing
Like,
new
look at the
life.
money Tree Vibes speaking, and not saying that that's wrong, but to not give credit to
Mm-hmm.
the fact that that is what you brought in. You brought in
Yeah.
black artists and black rhythms and
Mm-hmm.
black radio into country
Yeah.
music, and it revived it and created a whole new genre of country music. And you're profiting off of it. And for
Yeah.
us not to know that that has happened cycle over and over again, but yet like last year or the like last year it was the first time there were three black people on the Opry stage at once, Louis York and Jimmy Allen. It's the first time, the Opry stage, first time there was three black people on the stage. Like that's
Yeah.
crazy that that's 2019.
I
and
mean, it's
and we created, like,
yeah.
an Opry is where you want to be as a country artist. You want to perform
Yes.
there. It's hollowed ground.
Mm-hmm.
And so for you to look at how many members are not black, like when all of it is based
Yeah.
in, especially old Opry, like Skaggs and all of them, they all learn from black artists. They all, like, even though people go, oh, black people don't play
Mm-hmm.
the banjo, they don't typically play the banjo as much anymore, but it was a huge instrument to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
It started there, and then, like everything,
Mm-hmm.
it moves over, and then they abandon it because the competition is not. It's not about a competition for them. It was just healing. The
It's
cultural.
an age-old story. It's what happened with jazz. It's what
Yeah.
happens with everything that is basically formed in Black culture. Um, Historically, a lot of times when white people have gotten their hands on something that was Black built, Black owned, Black inspired, it just becomes a different thing, and Black people abandon it.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen that happen with whole genres, um, and so I just when we talk about hollow ground,
Yes.
And kind of mixed with a shaky foundation, which is the history of all this stuff. And I'm watching all these institutions um, pretty much try to make it right.
Yes.
Um, and I honestly, that's why I'm grateful you have these conversations, because I think it's these conversations, it's people saying like, no, we're not going to let up. We're going to continue to have this conversation, and also we're going to have this conversation with each other. We're going to tell our own stories. Um, I think it's these moments that push the needle, even if it's just a little bit further, or keep it on people's minds and say, no, we're not letting this up. No, this isn't a fad. This isn't just a moment to mark in history that we can just forget about later, shortly after now.
Yes.
These moments are important. We're acknowledging, um, acknowledging Black contribution to
Hmm.
country music, and to Americana music as well. I mean, when we talk about folk, it's a wide spectrum of just genres that are basically founded in roots music.
Hmm.
There's a huge, huge history. There's a huge Black contribution, and I'm hoping that people will will acknowledge it, and use that as the reason. If you need a reason to see diversity in country music and roots music at all, well, if you need a reason at all, here's the reason. It's like, here's one, here's a few. I mean, we're part of the history, part of the fabric.
Yeah.
We've built this. You know,
We
you
are
know.
the foundation
Yes,
of it,
we
and
are.
not even by choice. That's
Hmm.
like
That's a
we didn't
word.
choose to be it. That was just our music. That's
Hmm.
just our ancestors' music. And
Yeah.
so, and I think what people love about country music, and especially like Americana and stuff, is that it's just pure and it's heartfelt and it's honest.
Yeah.
And I think like I trace that back to its roots, which
Hmm.
was slavery in the fields and
Hmm.
families holding together by singing and praising and
Yeah.
making up little songs and having their instruments and doing all
Hmm.
this. And I think that's why the white slave owners and white people realize, like, oh, this is some good music, because you feel that energy in it,
Hmm.
you feel that passion.
Yeah.
And they just tried to keep recreating it and recreating it. And
Hmm.
what saddens me and what I'm hopeful for is that there is more people speaking out against people
Yeah.
bashing country artists that are Black. But I also know, like, Mickey will send me a text with a screenshot of what somebody wrote to her. And what I would like to see is, like, if somebody tweeted or said, so many people like being like, no, 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 don't do that. Like major country artists. And I see a
Hmm.
few. And I'm like, no, we can't allow people that are Black, happen to be Black, that are country artists, that are getting radio play and are getting
Hmm.
think to be bashed by racist rhetoric
Yeah.
when
Absolutely.
they have far over earned their place to be there. Like
Hmm.
like Mickey, Jimmy Allen,
Yeah.
they have
Absolutely.
all earned their place in,
Yeah.
and the ones coming up, like everybody coming
Hmm.
up, like
Absolutely.
they have earned it. And I still see so much rhetoric like, oh, you're Black, go to R&B. Like people tell Mickey that all the time. I'm like, what? First of all, let's look at the roots of R&B, which is also gospel, so it's basically the same roots.
Yes.
So it's just the instrumentation. I'm like, why? Because you're Black, you can't be in country. Country
Mm-hmm.
music is not a white,
Mm-hmm.
it shouldn't be considered a white genre. Shouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
considered a music genre. But people say it's a white music genre.
I was
And that's what's
watching.
crazy. I'm like, when is a genre based on race? Like Robin Thicke be singing some R&B and he's white? I don't go, oh,
Yeah.
that's a Black genre. Oh, if you're white, you can't sing that.
Hmm.
White people have
and
been
and
making
that's a
money off of
whole
R&B forever.
and
And
that's
rock and
a
roll, look at that way.
whole
Like,
that's a whole conversation in itself as well. Um,
right?
There's a whole other conversation. We could go there. I was watching NPR Tiny Desk, like maybe
Okay.
like 2 3 years ago. Tina Marie, yes.
I loved it.
Uh, um, I was watching NPR Tiny Desk, and Dawn Richard, she was part of like Danny DeCane. She was part of Diddy's Dirty Money. I just love her. She's incredible. But
Yes.
she said something that stuck with me, and I thought it was hilarious. She said, literally, people don't know what to do with Black people, especially Black women in music. You can literally be singing folk and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, that's R&B." Like, and I love R&B. We all love R&B. This is
Yeah.
not like a R&B bashing thing, but it's and I think it's the industry, but it's also just regular people don't really
Mhm.
know how to categorize um, a sound that is one naturally. So many of us are genre bending in the first place.
Yeah.
A lot of us just sound genre bending in the first place because you hear elements of everything that we've listened to, everything that we've been inspired by. We're not monolithic. You know, I didn't grow up on country music. Me personally, I
Hmm.
did not grow up on country music. I discovered Dixie Chicks when I was like 14 or 15 years old,
Chicks.
and then Gretchen Wilson, and then I ran around Walmart saying I'm a redneck woman, and everyone was confused by me, and I was confused too because I didn't know what I was saying, but I just knew I liked the song. And so like and so I didn't grow up on it,
Hmm.
um but just the idea of just, and it happens so many places. It's not even in just country. People literally don't know what to do with black people who are genre bending in general. We watch it
Hmm.
across so many industries, um, and it's sad. But I feel like we're at a time where one, people can acknowledge history in a much better way than we have before.
Yeah.
I.e., even just the premise of this whole conversation being black contribution to country music and how we built so much of this.
Yeah.
um, but just, I mean, even in terms of like just us sounding genre bending, I think people know what to do with us more now, at least audiences, because the average person will listen to Drake and then listen to um, I don't know, Kelsey Ballerini, and then listen to K Michelle, and then listen to like some 80s pop or something. So like the average person knows how to digest things that aren't the same. And
You just
so
made me so
that's,
happy saying K Michelle. That just made
oh,
me
I
happy.
love K Michelle.
That just made me happy. Just on it.
Anybody, what is it called? Anybody Want to Buy a Heart? That album,
Oh,
first, like, me and my best friend wore that album out completely. And I love K Michelle. She was actually one of the first black women that I saw on TV talking about the struggle that she had wanting to break into country music.
yeah.
And I thought, man, that's crazy. Like, I, between watching her talk about her struggle and then when I watched Beyonce at the CMT Awards, and I felt like I was the most excited person. And like when they panned around the room and people didn't really look that excited, I was like, oh hell, if Beyonce having problems, what the fuck is my black ass gonna have? I'm gonna have some problems. And so
Oh, the backlash thing. I was like, you guys, Beyonce's on your stage. Like,
yes,
bow,
Beyonce is here. I
bow.
When I found out she was even in Nashville, because it was like under wraps, like nobody knew, but then somebody broke it out on Twitter. When I found out, like when I remember exactly where I was. I was walking to class with my best friend. We had just gotten out of my car. We were literally still in the parking lot, and he said, "Brittney, Beyonce's in Nashville." I literally fell on the ground. I felt like I still have the pictures. He took pictures of me on the ground, and I stayed there for like 5 minutes. And then when I found out she was with Dixie Chicks, which was my introduction to country music, I was
Hmm.
just like, "You got to be kidding me! This is incredible." But it, yeah,
But she
we've
has
got
trouble.
some.
Yeah.
She absolutely had trouble. Like people, I remember there was a whole conversation, and like big ups to people like Bobby Bones who like defended "Daddy Lessons" being considered a country song. Like it was just people just didn't want to give her credit. I'm like, dude, if Beyonce had trouble, listen, all of us gonna have some goddamn trouble.
Everybody's
But
right. No,
like
I always
Beyonce.
Beyonce. And I grew up, like, my background is I grew up on country music. I was raised by my
Hmm.
grandmother. So she's from Arkansas. So I grew up on old school Opry and Howdy Doody and like,
Hmm.
and then I used to love Crystal Gale. And I mean, I still do. But I also grew up on R&B and pop, and my brother listened to
Hmm.
Marilyn Manson. Like, I grew up on
Hmm.
so many types of music, which are all influenced in my voice. So a lot of
Yep.
times people hear my voice and they don't know what I look like. They're like,
Hmm.
ah, and then they see me, they're like, oh, you're not white. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And
Yep.
then they hear me sing something else, like, oh, you can do that. I'm like, yeah, my voice
Hmm.
isn't based on my race. My voice is based on my voice.
Hmm. That's true.
And they're like it's pure. I'm like, yeah, like I don't sound like you don't
And
sound like that
define
woman in like
pure.
the church choir. I'm like, no, we don't all sound like that. I don't.
Yeah.
I sound like what I sound like, and
Mhm.
having to justify my voice in this genre, to
Mhm.
justify that, and then to realize like I write outside of country music. I write music
Yes.
that is not country. I write
Your
a lot of
song with
country music.
John Tucker is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I'm
That
so
is one of
thankful
my
for
favorite
Drake.
songs.
Hey.
That's like bringing it up. Like we listen to all sorts of things. Like I went
Yes.
into a thing, and I think that some people I write with that are country would never ask me to write a song about Drake. So they'd be like, "You don't know about Drake." I'm like, "I know about Drake. Like I
Yeah.
listen to Drake.
Yeah.
Like and we all do."
I feel you.
And that song is, yes, that song is a jam. Everybody go stream it. Shameless plug, but it's a feel good song. John
It
Tucker
is.
is my dude, and
He is.
Drake's my dude. Like I love
Mhm.
his message. But even there, like he started on like you look at that. You started on Degrassi. You started on a white show, built his audience, do all these things. Like he had to assimilate into the white world to then find his own place.
Mhm.
Like it's
Yeah.
and I
Oh, the
wish
days of assimilation need to be over. Like
yes,
death to assimilation. Like
yes.
that is whack, man. I did that for years in
Hmm.
Nashville, and it's just so stupid and dumb. Like,
Yeah.
it's so stupid.
Yeah.
It feels
I
so good to be able
applaud
to be
you for
yourself.
being done with it. It's very hard to break. It is a hard
Thank you.
pattern to break.
It is a hard pattern, but I'm thankfully like I'm from Baltimore. Baltimore is a
Yeah.
predominantly black city. And
That
I
is
don't, you know, I feel like I wasn't assimilating in terms of like trying to change like who I was. I wanted to be more palatable. So
mm-hmm.
I just dumbed down myself. So, like eating a slice of the pie is nice, but I don't know, maybe this is a terrible analogy. For me, the way I view my assimilation phase is there was a whole pie, and I kept giving people like a little slither of a piece because
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't want to overwhelm people. I wanted to be palatable. People just want to be able to be accepted.
Mm-hmm.
People just want to be able to find a place. People just want to find a home. People want friends. People want
Mm-hmm.
like, and for me, I mean, all that gets summed up as, in my mind, as equality. People just want a
Yeah.
home. People just want a place. Um, but when you feel you have to dumb down yourself because people won't be able to handle it, that's sad. That's a story that's so present. I mean, D4 Bailey talked about that.
Yeah.
Like when I was reading up about him, he talked about how he had to dumb down himself. He didn't assert himself, and even though black people have been at the core of the foundation of country music, not receiving acknowledgement, not even being able to fully embody who you are, um, those things those things have always been present, and it weighs down on people. It
Yeah.
weighs it weighs people down, and and yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. The first mixed race album made in the States was actually a country album.
See,
Like
facts.
it was actually a country album. So like the first album where black and white people came together to do something, it was a country album.
Mm-hmm.
So this moment in time where we're seeing such openness and such warmth given to black artists in country music, um, it's long overdue, but it's so fitting. Why not head up this charge? It's so fitting. Like, why not country music? It's when you talk about, I mean, even outside of country music, when you just talk about the South in general, when you talk about Muscle Shoals, when you talk about blues, when you talk about rock and roll, when you talk about so many things that came out of the South, out of
Mm-hmm.
Mississippi, out of Alabama, all the music that came out of Nashville. I mean, there was a string. There were literally black string bands in Nashville.
Yep.
So the idea of black people don't play banjo, well, they did. They just gave that shit up because it wasn't. People just want to go where they're accepted.
Yeah. And
People
if
just
you're
want to go
not,
where they find a home. Who
and
wants to keep climbing up a battle? Like, it's not just I'm not talented enough. It's the way I look. Really? Like, no one wants to keep fighting that battle.
because you can't change that.
No, you can't.
You
I
can't. It's a battle that I mean I feel in Nashville, and I finally broken out of trying to be digestible for people,
mm-hmm.
which is why I was comfortable doing these talks and everything. So I'm like, I don't care if you don't like me. Like, I
Yeah.
don't care if I'm too intense for you or you want to put these things on. I'm like, I sing country music. I sing R&B music. I write
Mm-hmm.
all types of music. Like, I am
Mm-hmm.
not white. I am biracial. Like, I have opinions. I am liberal. Like, let's
Mm-hmm.
go. Like, Black
Yeah.
Lives Matter. Like I'm not gonna summer myself so that I can be in a room with people that if I have to quiet myself and minimize myself to do it, which I've
Mm-hmm.
had to do, and I've gotten into some good rooms being that way. But then I
Mm-hmm.
also don't feel like I earned my place in that room. I still don't feel comfortable there
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not being myself. I
Yeah.
still don't feel like I belong there. I feel like I'm having to be cautious and I can't give my ideas because I don't want to be
Mm-hmm.
caught. Like, you don't
Yeah.
want them to see behind the veil. I'm like, I'd rather you
Mm-hmm.
just know what you're gonna get and
Yeah.
know I belong here. Like, I belong in this
Mm-hmm.
house. I belong in this room. Like,
Yeah.
I know what my roots are. You might not know what my roots are. Like, so let's have
Mm-hmm.
you learn and educate yourself.
Yeah.
And it sounds, to some, that sounds aggressive, but for me, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I just want everybody to raise your vibration. Like,
Yeah.
let's stop choosing ignorance and choosing to not have knowledge. Like how you said in the
Yeah.
beginning, like, I'm not a historian, but I read.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can all
Yeah.
read. Like, we
A
all
lot
got
of this shit
Google.
is Googleable.
Like, we all got Google. We all got some YouTube. Like, it's not that hard to find the information and to learn, especially if you're a country artist, learn the roots of it. Learn what you're
Yeah.
creating just so that you know.
Absolutely.
Like, if you play piano, you start with learning chords. Like, you
Yeah.
learn the foundation of the genre that you are profiting from and contributing to. Because
This
you
is
are
true.
part of the story now, but
Mm-hmm.
learn where the story began. Like, I just, so many people
Mm-hmm.
choose to be ignorant on it because they don't want to be attacked. And I'm like, nobody's attacking. We're just
Yeah.
learning. I think
Yeah.
that's what's beautiful about this time is that we're growing. But for it to not be a fad, for it to
Mm-hmm.
not be a fad and not be something that wipes away, we have to
Yeah.
keep pushing it. We have to keep bringing
Absolutely.
information. We have to keep telling, telling the
Yeah.
truth so that
Yeah.
more people that move to Nashville can be minorities. Like, and they
Yeah.
can feel comfortable in the rooms. And there
Mm-hmm.
can be, you could be like, oh, I'm gonna have a right today. And it's country. Oh, there's somebody black in the room too. Like, it's not just one black person for that one right.
Yeah.
And or one woman and one black person. Like, I'm like, whew, whew. Like, I can name the people that write music that are black in country that I've been in rooms with. Like, I shouldn't be able to just name you off a list. Like, it's not that many. And I think it's more because
Yeah.
people don't feel comfortable. People will go to
Yes.
Atlanta or people will go to LA or New York where
Mm-hmm.
they feel comfortable and maybe they want to do country music, but they
Oh, I
know
know
that
so
that's an
many people
uphill
like that.
battle.
I know so many people. I have friends that have made country songs. They've made country records, country EPs, um, and but their bread and butter comes outside of country music,
Hmm.
where they feel like they belong is
Hmm.
outside of country music, and so they'll embody the elements of country music and put it into their songs, but they're not pursuing a place in the genre
Hmm.
because they don't want that battle. It's one thing if I can't sing and you tell me I need to go get vocal lessons. Sure, great. That might hurt my feelings, but shit, let's go do it. Let's go get some vocal lessons. Tell
Yeah.
me I need to lose weight. Tell me I need to do anything within my control. Tell me I need to learn how to dance. I'm not a good guitarist. Whatever. Tell me all those things that I can put forth work to try
Hmm.
and address and fix. Ain't nothing I can do about my black skin. And there's nothing I want to do about that. But I don't need to be penalized for it. I don't need any of us. And I'm a metaphor for
Yeah.
anybody. I'm not talking about just myself.
Yeah.
We penalize us for something that we can actually kind of shape or change or decide not to change because this is who we are,
Hmm.
but when you it's like it's the lowest blow, and that's why anything less than being able to be ourselves is just soul crushing.
Yeah.
um and it's soul crushing. I don't want to say like I would never say like we have it harder now than people in the past. I would never say that. I can't imagine what it's like for an entire society of people. I mean, we feel some of it now, but I can't imagine what it's like to have an entire society of people feel like they have to, outside of their home, outside of our own community, we have to dumb down ourselves. Like
Hmm.
I can't imagine what that's like. And right now, what we're living in, and what I'm really proud about, and maybe I'm just rambling. What I'm really, really happy about is that with the with the issues that we're now facing as a nation with race,
Mm-hmm.
um, that Black people in country music didn't decide to we didn't decide to stay quiet. We decided to rise up because I can't like it would be so. Can you imagine how soul crushing it would be to watch the nation finally get a hold of some of the issues we have, and everyone's having a conversation, and Black people in country music still feel like we can't, and we're
Yes.
still dumbing down, and we're still not having. And so now to everyone else, sometimes it might look like we're just throwing in their faces, but I mean, we'll get through this together. It'll be fine. You know,
It
we're
will.
not throwing it. We'll get through it. We're not throwing it in anybody's face.
No.
We're saying, hey, we everyone's been asleep for a long time, so
Mm-hmm.
let's wake everybody up. You know, and
Well, that's
so
where it's like we've been silent, so we're just finally talking.
yeah,
So you just haven't
exactly.
seen us in the conversation, and
Mm-hmm.
how you
Yep.
said, and I like what you said. Like, I don't think it's necessarily harder for us because I don't think there's a comparison. But
Yes.
what I'm hoping for is that it gets easier. Like, I would hope in
Mm-hmm.
2020 that we would even not even have to be like, was it hard or was it hard? Like, oh no, this is easy. Like, we didn't have it
Mm-hmm.
anyway. Like, there should not be in
Yeah.
2020 this
Mm-hmm.
lack of equality.
Yeah.
And I see it everywhere. Like, I had people texting me the other day when it was like the 100th anniversary of being able to vote, and I was like, you guys know I couldn't vote then, right? Like, I was Black. Like,
I was
that wouldn't
thinking
be
the
Black
same
people.
thing.
And I was like, I'm not dissing that movement. Like, I'm happy, but also like realized Susan B. Anthony was really mad when Black men got the right to vote before women. Like,
Mm-hmm. She
there are
was
things.
racist.
She was
Yeah.
racist. Like,
Yeah.
and yes, she was an abolitionist, but like, I'm just like, learn the
Not
roots.
for
Like, I'm
me.
not.
Not for me though.
Not for me.
She,
That's what I'm saying. People go like, she was an abolitionist. I'm like, no, she was until she was challenged. Like, people can talk a lot of talk until they're challenged. Like, even the country music community, I'm happy that as they're being challenged, they're rising up.
mm-hmm.
I want them to continue and push, because when
Yeah.
you are challenged is when I see where you really stand.
Yeah.
Like, you can be like, ooh, Black Lives Matter, all this, but and I want more Black people, but when you're hiring your session players, if there's a Black session player that's the same talent level as this white session player, but they're friends with all the friends, like, who are you going to hire? Like, who
Yeah.
are you going to start bringing people outside of our community in that have
Yeah.
equal talent? Just
Oh yeah.
because they're outside, you're going to have to bring them in. Like, we have a
Mm-hmm.
very good old boys club in Nashville. Like, are we going to start
Heck
breaking
yeah.
that up? Are we
Heck
going to
yeah.
start choosing a different path? And that's where I'm like, talk is talk is talk, and I'm happy that we're talking.
Mm-hmm.
20 into 2020 and into 2021, which it'll be more
Mm-hmm.
2021 when people are recording fully and COVID's more under control. I want to see what action you take, what action people are taking
Yes.
to realize, like, okay, we've told you how Black people started this, we've told you how this happens. We're not asking for handouts, we're asking for opportunities in
Yes.
this genre. We're asking for you to let us be here, even though it might make you a little uncomfortable just because you're not used to our vibe. Get
Mm-hmm.
used to it. Like, when things change, you have to change with it. You have to
Yeah.
be like, oh, okay, this is how the river's flowing. Like, you don't just say, oh,
Mm-hmm.
like, when a river moves, it moves. You go
Yeah.
with it. Like, I just want to hope that this opposition doesn't continue, because there is going to be opposition, because there are a lot of racist country fans. There's a lot of people that love the Confederacy. Like, there just are.
Yeah.
So
Country music loves history. How come they don't ever embrace this part of history?
that's that's what
They
I'm saying.
like the South still talks about Confederacy. Like I've never like it lost,
It
and like
lost.
it's
I've
still an
never heard it
important
so
part of
much talked
history.
about.
This
What is that?
conversation should be easy.
Like,
The South
and what
loves history.
I'm happy about is when I get back to Nashville, I won't feel uncomfortable wearing like my Howard sweatshirt, or wearing my Biden Harris sweatshirt, or
Hmm.
wearing like all the shirts that I've been wearing on this, that people like. I'm like, I never wore these in Nashville before, because I'm like, why am I going to wear a Rosa Parks shirt? Like, I just don't need the anger, especially in a tourist town when you got a lot of people from the deep South that come on in and just are hanging out. I'm like, I don't care, because
Yeah, I
we're gonna
intentionally stay
change the
away.
conversation. We're gonna change the narrative
Hmm.
to not to realize the truth,
Hmm.
to not be so whitewashed. So we're
Yeah.
not saying bad for this. I'm just like, let's not whitewash it. Let's just tell the honest truth. And there
Yeah.
are multiple colors in the truth. And that's
Hmm.
what why I'm happy to be having these conversations.
Oh, I'm so happy. I mean, and I I've I know firsthand that diversifying anything takes a whole lot of time. It takes a whole lot of um, patience, empathy, understanding. It takes a lot of work. It
Mm-hmm.
takes a lot to diversify, especially if you're doing it out like just vacant of tokenization.
Yep.
Um, that's a whole other subject as well. But
Oh, we're gonna have you're gonna be on here so many times. You're gonna be like, "What's going on?" I'll be like, "Oh, that's my co-host Brittany." Because the
it,
other day I
it,
actually had to turn down a national anthem job, um,
I remember
and
you told me about that.
yeah, and I still have people saying like, "Why did you do that? You don't like America?" And I'm like, I don't feel comfortable singing the anthem at this point in time. I don't
Hmm.
feel comfortable, and I'm like, I'm gonna do the Black national anthem, and I'll offer that up, and we'll see what happens. But I'm like, you have to stand in your truth as well. You have to stand in what you're preaching. Like I would feel awful singing a song that I don't believe in and I'm speaking very against right now and making money from it. Like I think it's just going to cause a lot of uncomfortability for people, and it's uncomfortable for me because I'm like I like money, like I like making money, and I can sing the national anthem very well, very
Hmm.
good at it. But and
I feel
that's
you.
but I'm like no, no, I'm going to stand in my truth, and we're going to have these conversations, and we're going to let other people feel comfortable standing in their truth and being
And
authentic.
I think that's really important to allow people to stand in their truth, to allow people to embody it in the way that they want, um,
Mm-hmm.
and to do so without placing judgment. Like, oh, you don't like America. You don't like, that's when I hear you talk, I'm not thinking you don't like America. That's the furthest thing from my mind. I'm thinking you have issues and that you probably just really appreciate democracy so much that you exercise it.
Yeah.
And so wanting to see us do better doesn't mean that you hate us. If I don't care, I mean, it's like people. When people don't care, they stop talking, they stop fighting. It's like any relationship. If I stop talking in the relationship,
That's
that's a
the,
problem.
yeah.
When I'm quiet, when I'm not fighting, when I'm
Mm-hmm.
hopeless, and you need to, I don't know, maybe figure out what my inner thoughts are because I'm probably about to leave. But anyway, that's a whole other
Yeah.
subject too.
Oh,
But
yeah. Oh, I
but
already have like 5 other topics that we're going to discuss. Like somebody
but
just
I
asked, like,
hear,
we need to talk about the Confederate flag and kneeling. I'm like, oh, yeah. I'm like, don't you worry. We can go into that.
oh, absolutely. I mean,
That's a whole nother. I'm
those.
like, I will talk about cap and kneeling and
Mm,
that stuff. I'm like, it's a whole, I have major problems with the,
the the fact that black people here's, I guess, I think we'll probably, what time is it? 12:44. Okay, cool. I the thing the thing I wish people will understand, particularly um, people who love country music
mm-hmm,
and might not always want to hear a lot of things that we're saying about black contribution to country music, or even anything that we're saying. The idea that we're talking about this is because we still have hope.
yeah,
The idea that we're pursuing a genre that historically leaves us out of the history, of the story, of the narrative, the stages,
mm-hmm,
the present. The reason we're still pursuing and the reason we're still talking about this stuff is because we care.
yeah,
It's because we care. It really, actually, it's a wonderful burden, but it is a burden to constantly have to kind of keep talking about this stuff.
yeah,
Um, in order for me to justify my existence, I need to talk about the contribution of my ancestors. That's, in the ideal world, you would like my music because it's good, or you would hate it because it's bad.
yeah,
And it wouldn't have anything to do with all
yeah,
this beautiful chocolate. Like, it would have nothing
yeah.
to do with that. And
Which is
so,
beautiful. Like,
thank you. You too,
makes
girl.
me
You
want to.
listening. You are
I know the
glistening.
sun is like, whew. Whew.
I was
I'm
going
gonna
to go
come back some honey
outside.
beige.
Yes. I was going to go outside because it's so beautiful, but it's also loud because I'm in the city. But
Yeah.
it's so, like, this is my city. I love my
Oh,
little city.
oh, I love. Oh,
I love the city. I really do.
I'm just
Um,
like, oh, how much I
but
miss the cities.
but we have hope. We
Mm-hmm.
have a whole lot of hope, and that's what propels us to keep going. That's what propels us um, to tell the stories, to be honest about history, um, to be honest about how we have felt in this industry, how we have felt in the South.
Mhm.
Like it's just, I get DMs from people whenever we have these conversations.
Mhm.
Whenever I've had them like online, I get DMs from people talking about how like I've even had there was one black woman. She said I haven't even told anybody how much I love country music because I don't want to have to deal with the headache that comes along with saying it out loud. I'm
Yeah.
like, that's heavy. That's a real thing. I mean, it's just like it's hard. I mean, we were honest. The last time we
Yeah.
talked about how our parents didn't want us to move to Nashville.
Yep. They did
Um,
not.
my my dad still asks me, he's like, "All right, you coming home?" I'm like, "No. What are you talking about?
My
Like,
dad
sit
asked me
down.
that the other day. He's like, "So
Like,
you think you're
Brian,
planning
leave
on
me
coming
alone."
back here?" I'm like, "Oh,
And I've never called him Brian. He would kill me if he saw this. But that's what I call him in my head when he getting on my nerves. I'd be like, Brian. But
yeah." I go,
like,
"Pops." I just go, "Pops." I'm like, I can't. I'm like,
yeah,
I can't have this battle. There's
you know,
too many battles. I can't have this battle.
it's the battle of people who don't look like us.
Mm,
It's a lot of time white audiences or industries that
mm,
are trying to justify our being there. Sometimes it's just our families and our own people that are like, why would you want to
mm.
deal with that? That go where you are wanted,
Yeah.
go where you are accepted. Um,
Well,
that's a
and I have
real thing.
hope.
It's a
I
real
do have hope
reality.
that Nashville will accept us, and I think that they're beginning to. I don't think they fully do
Hmm.
yet. I don't think it
Hmm.
does, but I think the journey has
Hmm.
begun, and I
Yeah,
think
absolutely.
that running. Though I can't say I'm going to live in Nashville my whole life because I probably won't because I'm just my family's in California. But I go, I'm needed there. I'm needed
Hmm.
there because the voices are needed.
Yeah.
You can't change something without being present. So you can't change something being silent. So I'm
Hmm.
like, I will keep talking. I will keep
Yeah.
saying. And yes, my platform is not huge, and I don't have all of the chart topping things. But I think that actually
Hmm.
makes it better because
Yeah.
I don't have any. I'm not losing anything. I'm not worried about losing anything.
Hmm.
Now, anything I gain, I know I gained it through me being my
Hmm.
authentic self. You know,
Yes.
and that
I
I'm
do have
like,
to give. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't
oh,
mean
I
to
was
cut
saying,
you
and
off.
I don't have any fear of that. And
Hmm.
that makes me. If you can be your authentic self,
Yeah.
then it might be harder to gain something, but when you gain
Hmm.
it, you know you earned it.
Oh, that's a word. That's a quote. You need to write that down. I don't know if you got a pen or a piece of paper, but you need to write that down.
Yeah. Right. Whew.
I do have a confession that I have to make. When when uh when black country artists started being vocal
Mhm.
about hey Kendra started being vocal about the things that we've experienced, and even
Mhm.
like in these conversations talking about black contribution to country music and the history
Mhm.
of it. Honestly, a lot of people that are constantly talking about equality, like gender equality, I did not think a lot of people who are advocating for gender equality would stand up for black people.
Yeah.
If I'm honest,
Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie.
I didn't either.
I honestly have been pleasantly shocked, and I'm so happy to be wrong. I just
Mhm.
didn't know. I didn't know. I thought, okay, people aren't going to care about something outside of their own interest, and that has not been completely the case. And I'm honestly really grateful for the people who actually give a damn and
Mhm.
are like really like trying to embody this. I'm grateful for that.
Yes.
I As soon as it wasn't gender equality, I thought it was going to be like a okay, bye. I thought everyone was just going to come in, like peek through the door, be like, oh, wrong room, and
All
like
right.
shut it.
Well, like I posted the other
Like,
day, I'm like, oh, you posted a black square. Like, what's next? And I was like actually shocked that people were like, oh, I've been
yeah,
doing this and I've been doing this and like
yeah,
sending me messages. I'm like, oh, you guys have been doing
mm-hmm,
something. I was posting this kind of like a pessimist, and you guys have shocked
yeah,
me that you actually have
yeah,
been doing stuff that
yeah.
I'm like, good job.
Same,
Thanks.
same. I've been like pleasantly like, oh shoot. I literally thought they were going to like open the door and be like, oh, I'm so sorry. I was trying to find a bathroom and like leave out. Like that's
Yeah.
what I like envisioned in my head, and that has not happened. And so I'm grateful. I think acknowledging how black people have always been part of country music, the history, a lot of
Mhm.
things that we kind of mentioned in the beginning of this live. Um, I think it's going to be helpful in terms of reimagining a more inclusive and diverse future for country music. And I think these conversations are important.
Yeah.
I think they are in a little way, like I said, in a little way, I think that we just kind of move the needle a little bit by having the conversation and not letting up.
Hmm.
Um, so I think it's beautiful. Thank you for doing these. And thank you
Thank
for inviting me
you.
to even be able to be here and to chat
I
and to
hope that
just
you'll
be
come back
honest.
and we'll talk about more. Like I hope
Oh, I'll come back whenever. I'm
yeah,
having a
like I'll
good
be
time.
like I love it. It just it fills my heart,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
that is such a blessing in heavy times to be
Yeah.
able to have these conversations that are open and honest and are heavy and are honest, but it's so it brings me joy to be
Hmm.
able to have these conversations so openly. Like that
Yes.
brings me joy.
Hmm.
And you bring me joy. And so
Oh, likewise. If it's
thank
okay, I would like to tell everybody about a book. If you are
you. Yes.
interested at all, if you're interested at all about the early days of country music and a lot of the black artists and instrumentalists that brought instruments from Africa, a lot of the instrumentalists that were part of training up some of our uh, our late country greats like Jimmy Rogers and Bill Monroe and Hank Williams. There's a video that I can definitely like send or post or whatever. But also there's a book. Hold on, let me grab it. Jeez, I didn't realize how much I read these last 2 days. I love it.
That's
You know
awesome.
what? I'm going to find it, and I forgot the name of it. I forgot the title of it.
I'll
I do apologize.
I
Oh,
can
here we
tag
go.
it in the video too. Oh, you found it?
Perfect. Yes, it's called "Hidden in the Mix: The African American Presence in Country Music." Um, and it was written by a professor. Her name is Diane Pecknold. She teaches down at the University of Louisiana. It's several books out there. Unfortunately, they kind of just get kind of thrown under the dust, but it's so many stories of just black people in country music. We're not new to this. Like, we're not new to this at all. I think everyone else is just kind of new to just how present black people have been.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'll send the video. I'll send you all the stuff.
Yeah,
I'll
send
send
me.
you all
I'll
my links,
post.
and you'll post all the stuff.
Yes, I'll post it all and have links to stuff so that you guys can all grow with us.
Yeah,
We're all
this
raised
is
this
fun,
country.
you guys. And a lot of this is Googleable. This is
Google, Google,
like
take advantage of
Google is the
Google.
Google is the shit.
Yes.
So
Thank God for Google.
yeah.
Woo. Like I'm
And
like,
thank
woo.
you, Mr. Aileen, Professor Aileen, who taught the history of the recording industry at MTSU. I wish I knew where he was. I think he moved back to England or something. But he was so instrumental. He started off our class when talking about the recording industry. He started off by talking about the Fisk singers, which, if I can give a little fact, Nashville Music City did not get its name from country music.
Yeah.
Music City was a name given to us by Queen Victoria because she heard the Fisk Jubilee singers in England, and she said, "You all sound so heavenly. Wherever you come from must be Music City." So Music City did not come because of country music.
No, came because of those
So
fist singers.
it came because of the Fisk singers. And I
Yeah.
live right by Fisk, by the way.
Woo! I love
I love
Fisk.
everything.
I just
I
love
love Fisk.
I love
I
Fisk.
do.
I love Fisk and HBCUs.
Hmm.
I just love black folk. I truly do. I just
Me
do.
too. I love
We
us. I
rock.
love to see it. I love to see it.
I love it.
Thank you
Oh,
for having me again. Thank you. Thank you.
thank
Thank you.
you. And have a beautiful day. And I'm about to text you and we're about to get
Okay.
another date on the books. So thank you guys
Dope.
for joining us and I'll post this to my page and you guys can rewatch if you came in late.
Do you want to look at my city before I go?
I do want to look at your city because I miss that city so much.
I love Baltimore. Hold on, let me show you a little something something about my city. It's not as loud out here. But look out here. It's so beautiful.
Oh,
Look at
yes.
Baltimore. Good
Baltimore.
morning, Baltimore. Every day's like an open door. Oh, my brother's videotaping me. Why would you do that? I'm out here just singing trash. I forgot I wasn't live. I sang acting like I couldn't sing. Y'all don't hold it against me. Go listen to my
Oh,
Instagram. I can actually sing a song a little bit.
oh, I love this. I love it. You just made me.
You're amazing.
I'm about to be joyful the rest of the day.
Yay! Here's my brother.
Hi. Hey. Look at that.
It really ain't that hot out here. I have a hoodie on because it's a little chilly. Um, I don't know. Can I be
Okay.
Tabitha Brown for a second?
Yeah. Yes.
Honey, you gonna have the best day. But even if you can't have a good day, don't you dare go mess with nobody else's.
Yes,
I
sis.
love
Yes.
Tabitha.
Yes, sis.
Thank you, sis. You're amazing.
You are too. I love you.
See you. Love you. Mwah.
Mwah.
Bye, y'all.